Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. This is another of our 15-minute lunch breaks, our webinars, our series where what we're trying to do is, kind of take a bunch of information, put it down in more bite-sized packages that we can deliver over about 10, 15 minutes over a lunch break. And I hope if you've attended some of them up to this point, you found them useful. But I'd really be curious, is this something that you like in addition to the long form webinars? Is it something that, you like better than long form webinars? Is it something you want us to keep doing? We're planning on doing at least one more in the month of May and maybe quite a bit more beyond that. So, at any point, if you want to drop an email or comment on social media, these are always on the BWF and First Name Facebook pages after the fact. I'd be really curious if you like this format, if you like, having this really kind of short, condensed webinar series that we've been doing. So I see more attendees are filing in, and I think we're getting maybe about a minute or so past the top of the hour. So I am going to go ahead and get us started so we can keep to that promise of a shorter format webinar delivery. So again, thank you so much for joining us today for our, I guess, the last 15-minute lunch break in the month of April. Again, we'll do at least one more. I think May 19th, Wednesday, May 19th is the next one where my colleague Zach Corbin is going to be talking about Google Analytics and using Google Analytics for fundraising and tracking all the activity. That'll be a lot of fun. Zach really knows the stuff in that space, so I'd encourage you to attend at that point too. So. Who are we? What do we do? If you're just joining us for the first time for our 15-minute lunch breaks, we are First Name. We are complete, personalized digital fundraising. We are all about hashtag no cold asks. We want to make sure that we are using all these channels to warm our audiences, to inspire people to support the causes that we support through our work. We do that through technology platforms and a suite of services, including training. And really what we're all about is making sure that we're empowering fundraisers to be more successful using technology, to be more efficient. There's a very important role that the human being still plays in this. We're not automating away the fundraiser. Hopefully what we're doing is providing more tools for fundraisers to be more effective in this space. So today we're talking about journey-based engagement. This is getting that really inspiring content out using a combination of paid and organic social media, email campaigns. We've got a lot of tools at our disposal. I'm sure some of you are probably using them now that allow us to be so much more pinpoint and precise in the way we engage our donors and prospects, all the way from the major gift prospect, where we've been pretty pinpoint and precise for quite some time because they're assigned to a gift officer. But we can have that same kind of personalized precision. It's not as easy to say as I thought it would be in the annual fund for the small gift owners. We can, for example, serve people a microsite that has their name all over it, that pulls in stories about funds that matter to them. Through, again, technology, we can be a lot more efficient and engage a lot more people. Now, once we get back up into that mid-level and major gift range, the question is, how do we go from interested internet observer to loyal donor? What's that transition point? How do we go from someone who's been following us and engaging on Facebook to having real, meaningful, substantive conversations with a gift officer? Well, we call these off-ramps. It's the locations in the donor journey where it makes sense and feels safe to leave that digital highway and have a more productive conversation towards a gift taking place. Caveat, yeah, I know some big gifts do actually come in online, and we're seeing more of that activity. But for the most part, what we want to do is use these digital campaigns to position gift officers for success. So let's look at some examples of how we do that today. University of St. Thomas, just across the river from me in Minneapolis, they're over in St. Paul. And a few years ago, I was talking with, I believe, Chris Fahey there, and it turns out that they were actually using Zoom for donor meetings long before the pandemic, a good year or two in advance of that. Very prescient for sure. Set them up for success, of course, when the pandemic hit. But what they were doing is trying to find new ways to be, again, more efficient and more effective in engaging and cultivating and stewarding donors, perhaps even with solicitation strategies. And what they discovered with this experiment of using Zoom, again, pre-COVID, right? So no pandemic influence here. What they found was using Zoom in that scenario was really good for those donors and prospects with whom they had a strong relationship. Not the first time product, not the new donors who are being added to a portfolio, not the new prospects. That took some more time to develop those relationships. But for those who they knew well, a Zoom visit might be more convenient, might be easier to attend, might break down some of those geographical barriers. So that worked really well for St. Thomas and got us thinking that, okay, this digital development officer thing, it's not just content and warming, but it might actually, there might actually be a role here for digital interactions that are more substantive. So again, those are the those are the ones that they've known pretty well. But what about the new prospects? So what do we do for the new prospects? How do we use digital in that sense? Well, there's lots of options. First of all, we all have events. We have the big galas, picnics in the square. In the higher ed space, there's homecoming. There's events that donors maybe have attended in the past or want to be a part of, or might spark some sort of nostalgia in their support of your mission, support of your organization. So for something like that, you can set up a live stream, a really good live stream, so that if they're not able to attend that gala, but they can maybe be there, remote. I think a lot of organizations have gotten better at that. I've seen a ton of work in the arts community, for really doing these robust galas, because in the pandemic, that was everything. That was their one big thing throughout the course of the year, and they had to find a way to do it. And there's been a lot of innovation in that space and how to do sort of remote experiences for big time donors around a gala or something like that. And it could be something as simple as, you can have Zoom on a phone, and you might want to just, you're with a donor who they're close with, and you're at this event, and that other donor is several states away, and you pull up your phone and you have this, great conversation with a prospect and a donor, or a couple of donors and yourself at the event. So plenty of ways to do that in the event space. Then there's the peer-to-peer piece, and I think this is really exciting. And this kind of goes back to the St. Thomas example as well, because this is one of the areas they were exploring. But the peer-to-peer piece, once again, we've got, perhaps you're based in St. Louis and you've got a donor in San Francisco and you've got another donor in Atlanta, and you want to bring the three of you together for a good conversation. And that's obviously hard to do in person, but with Zoom, it can be done in a moment's notice, and you can have a pretty productive conversation. And even better, if you're trying to engage someone, if you have a prospect and you have someone who knows them, so you can use that peer-to-peer engagement to invite them to the Zoom meeting. You're going to be a lot more successful setting up Zoom meetings with new prospects if one of their friends is the one inviting them to that Zoom meeting versus a gift officer whom they've probably never met before. So there are ways that the Zoom call can certainly work for new prospects, new donors, those who you haven't established a relationship with yet. Even better, I think, for the new prospects, again, where we don't have the relationship, is personalized video. Just recording something and sending it to them versus an email. Again, the Zoom call might be a bit much for a new, less engaged prospect, but if you send them a really nice personalized video message via a direct message on LinkedIn or maybe Facebook or email or WhatsApp or text or whatever way it is you're communicating with the donor or prospect, that can be a really nice, warm way to move the needle and move them towards a conversation with you in the future. There's so much we can do with video, and we do think increasingly, not just for digital development officers, but for all development officers, the ability to be effective with really simple video, not spending a lot of time producing video at all, but maybe even saving time by, instead of, really thinking through a 2 or 3 or 4 paragraph email, simply turning on your webcam, turning on your phone and recording a nice, warm, personalized message for a donor or prospect. That's something that we're pretty bought into, and something that we see happen and work very well for a lot of the development officers that we're working with. It should be short. It's very, very easy to ramble on video. So 45 seconds or less is what I would aim for. Keep the message simple and keep it singular. One message, one reason for the outreach. If there's more things you want to say, maybe you put that in the body of an email, or maybe that's a follow-up. Especially if you're not an experienced video producer, you want to keep it short and sweet. Just frame yourself. Don't worry about any kind of like editing or anything like that. Just simply drop in your message. This is what we want to talk about. This is what we want to say. This is the reason why I'm sending you this video message today, to kind of move that conversation along. It could be for any reason. It could be to learn more. It could be to sign up for an event. It could be a recap of a conversation you had. But the video, in a way, is really another step in the journey. But when it's personalized and it's coming from you, it's that off ramp at the same time, right? They've been engaged, they've signed up for something, they've followed a Facebook campaign, they've clicked, the pixel is fired, they've gone to this or that. You've tracked them in the internet ether. And this is, again, sort of that off ramp. If it's not a Zoom call right away, in a lot of cases, if you don't know, then it probably shouldn't be, but it could be that personalized video to really kind of introduce yourself to that donor, to that prospect. And then there's the social media piece. And we've seen we've seen Facebook groups be really effective tools for a lot of development officers. Again, not just digital development officers, but development officers, where they have the opportunity to do a couple of things. They can either join an existing Facebook group, or maybe create a new Facebook group around their portfolio, around the focus of their portfolio. Maybe there's an exclusive network that your organization manages, that you can invite them to, and that they can be part of that as well. So that's also an option. This is easy. It's low risk for the prospect. Inviting someone to join a Facebook group doesn't take a lot of commitment. So again, slightly lower threshold than asking them to be on a Zoom call. Your off ramp might be, please join this Facebook group. Please join this private community. And here are the benefits of being in that community. One of the things you want to think about those, you want to make sure it's worth their while. So if you have a private network or community, because we've seen this happen quite a bit, where over the years, different organizations, this has been especially true in higher ed, where they've wanted to create their own private label, white label social media network. And I don't know of too many cases where that's really gone well. You get a lot of people to sign up right away, and they very, very rarely return, because the social networks they're used to using are Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, what have you. It's in our experience been a lot better and a lot more effective to go where the people are and create a community on those networks than create a private label social network. But again, if there's a really good, if there's really good value to being part of that social media network, then it can be worthwhile. So just kind of a word of advice in terms of, do we just do it on Facebook or LinkedIn, or do we try to do it on our own platform? I would lean towards the former first. Again, that just seems to be a lot more effective, because people are in the habit of checking those on a daily basis. People aren't in the habit of checking, sort of a one-off or exclusive network, unless, again, there's very valuable information. Access, for example, access to ticket sales, to meeting with the executive director of your organization, to accessing their giving history, personal giving history. If there's a hook there, that's different. But otherwise, if it's just to communicate with people, I would suggest you do it on Facebook, do it on LinkedIn. Okay, so those are the 3 off ramps. Once again, I promised these would be short and sweet, and we did get done in the first 15 minutes, so 13 minutes I think it took. If we have any questions, go ahead, drop them into the Q&A or chat. I'll monitor both. Just pop them in there right now. I'd like to know, are you doing digital development officer work? Have you identified off ramps that we didn't mention today that work? What are you seeing in this space? What can you suggest for us? Again, next, I believe May 19th is the next 15-minute lunch break. Zach's going to be leading that, talking about Google Analytics and how to use and leverage Google Analytics. Digital development officer work, I think it is very, very trendy at the moment, but I think it's more than that. It's where we're going in terms of direction. So again, questions in the Q&A or the chat. We've got one coming in here now, so I'm going to go ahead and answer that in a second. But if you have anything else you want to ask, please let me know, or you can follow up after the fact. That's my email, justin@firstname.co. It's not a typo. It's .co, not .com. Website is firstname.co. And I'm also on LinkedIn as well, and Twitter and all those places. So first question is, what resources would you suggest for setting a gift officer up to be successful creating their own video? And that's a really good question. And the first thing I would suggest is Loom. It's Loom, loom.com, I think. It's probably one of the easiest, sort of app-based, laptop-based video editors I've ever come across. It's so simple. It's very easy to either record just yourself or just your screen, or yourself and your screen at the same time. Once you record it, there's a really simple snip tool so that you can cut the front and the back off, so you don't have kind of that awkward, getting the video set up and then trying to close it at the end of the recording. You can trim right out of the middle if you start and you stop. So there's a lot of really tools. It's very, very user friendly, and we use it all the time. I probably send internally, as many or more Loom videos to people now than I do emails. If it's any kind of a substantial email whatsoever, it's gonna be more than a paragraph or two. Just put it in Loom. When you're talking with someone, it's so much better and so much less gets lost in translation when you have videos. So Loom is the one that I would probably most frequently recommend. With a little bit of training, there's obviously built-in tools for editing, like iMovie on a Mac. OpenShot is what we've been recommending for PC users. And those are just really simple free editing tools where, let's say you want to go just a little bit more fancier. Maybe you have like an animated close graphic you want to drop onto your videos after you record them. Using some of those tools is pretty effective. But I mean, beyond that, a laptop, a mobile phone. If you were to make any kind of investment, I would say for $25, $30, you can buy a really effective lavalier microphone that clips right onto a person's shirt and makes it feel like almost a professional shot, as long as you've got the framing and the lighting into place. So yeah, those would be my recommendations for video editing tools. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else pop up. We're already over our time. So again, anything, if you want to follow up afterwards, have any questions, have any conversations around DDO work, around off-ramps, around anything we're doing in this space, please let me know. But thank you all so much for joining the 15-minute webinars. And also, again, if you have additional feedback, if there's a topic you'd like us to explore, we'd like to keep doing these as long as you feel like there's value. So let us know either way, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much, everybody.